I think the last time I was in Wifley Community Centre I was 14 and running across the roof with my pals. So it's nice to actually be inside the building for a change and the janitor not shouting at me. So this might be a weird thing to say to a big group of Labour Party people, but I'm not really a tribal guy when it comes to politics. It can't just be about the party for me. It's got to be about the person, about the ideals and the integrity of the candidate who's asking for you to employ them for the next 5 years. But that's why I'm here tonight. This isn't some blind party loyalty thing. Parties of lefts and rights, parties of good and bad. But when Tom Clarke asked me if I would say a few words at the launch of his campaign, I told him nothing would really stop me. It's an honour, because this guy is absolutely on the side of the angels. I work in the film and TV industry, and I think Tom possibly asked me along to shed a little light on the work he did back when he was Culture Secretary. And he really did do a fantastic job. He's very respected in my world, most notably for his part in getting the tax breaks that helped kickstart a boom in British cinema after decades of terminal decline. But I feel I'm a Coatbridge guy more than I'm a film guy. And I've worked in Hollywood for 10 years, but I lived in Coatbridge for over 30. And it's only since leaving and working in lots of other places, I realised what a unique and special figure he is in this community. When I'm travelling, I'm always shocked how few people can name their MP. Even smart, well-educated people around the country have a sense of disconnect from Westminster, and it's clearly because their MP isn't really one of them. We all know how it works. They parachute in some 35-year-old lawyer over the heads of the local party workers, usually living miles away and only showing up for surgeries and events. No real roots, no real connections, no genuine love of the place. Tom, on the other hand, has lived and worked in this town his entire life. Cut the guy and he bleeds Coatbridge. His family are like the Coatbridge Kennedys. There isn't a person here. There isn't a person here who he doesn't know by name, and this is true for miles in every direction from this hall. I've walked down Coatbridge Main Street with Tom from the Fountain to St Pat's, and it takes the better part of an afternoon. Now again, I have to stress this is very unique, but the people of this town all know Tom because at one time or another he's touched all our lives through his work. Like a teacher or a clergyman, he's part of our memories and our collective present. And off the top of my head, I can name dozens of people he's directly helped, stretching all the way back from the day he followed Jimmy Dempsey and when he worked as provost serving Milton's District Council. He was never out to make cash. He doesn't have directorships. We were never a step in a career for this guy. He's an old school public servant. As someone who knows a lot of political figures up and down the country, through work, I've met so many of these guys. I've never known an MP who treats helping people so vocationally, so 24/7. Now, I know he might be embarrassed by all this praise that's been showered on him tonight. Actually, I know him well enough to know he's going to love every second of it. He'll be asking for copies of this speech. But I think it's important to stress because we can take people for granted sometimes, even after a lifetime of public service. And I'm not entirely convinced by Lord Ashgrove's poll putting Coatbridge and Christ as marginal. You know, he does, you know, he's got a slight conflict of interest, of course, you know, but this really is a pivotal election because the choice for us all really couldn't be simpler here. One of two parties form a government in May. The party that passes 326 seats and gets closest to it gets the keys to Downing Street. It's that simple. Now, I've got a lot of time for people in the SNP. There's some good people there, and their policies can be close to my own on occasion. But this isn't the time to protest. This isn't a referendum, nor will it be treated as such by whoever wins. This is about who can get close to 326, and when you're only standing in 59 seats, you're not forming a government. Worse, you're chopping off the Labour Party at the knees, and I don't exaggerate when I say that my Tory pals down south are rubbing their hands together at the irony of Scotland giving Cameron a majority for the next 5 years. Labour and the Tories are neck and neck. The Tories have a lot more cash and will lose 2, possibly 4 seats to UKIP. The left-wing vote, on the other hand, is split 4 ways at least. And in Scotland, between 30 and 50 seats could be taken from a potential Labour government. This isn't scaremongering, this is arithmetic. I hear a lot of talk about how little difference there is between the Tory and Labour governments. And I remember hearing exactly the same thing 15 years ago about Al Gore and George Bush. I was working in the States at the time, and people were bored of the Democrats after 8 years, moaning about how you could put a cigarette paper between them in terms of policy. And a lot of my friends voted Ralph Nader as a protest, instead of backing Al Gore, who they normally would. Does that sound familiar? Al Gore and George Bush, how wrong they were, how wrong we would be too. The Conservatives haven't won a general election outright for 23 years, maybe we've all just forgotten what truly right-wing government is actually like. Now, I'm not a tribalist, like I said. There's a lot of very good people and able people out there in other parties. But the 1980s were burned too deeply in my psyche to even risk a Conservative majority again. I can't stand back and watch people be complacent when I grew up in the deindustrialisation of the North, and I saw my dad lose his job in 1985, never to work again. My dad was a steel worker in this town. My grandfather and great-grandfather were miners in this town. They lived and died their entire lives in 2 square miles. And when my grandfather died in 1951, he made sure he was carried to the polling station to vote against Churchill from his sickbed. The idea that Coatbridge could in any way precipitate a Conservative majority would have been an anathema to them. As it is to me, like I said, I moved away a little over 10 years ago, but the importance of this vote and my admiration for Tom Clarke and all he's done for this town is so strong that I jumped at the chance to be here tonight and say what I really do feel has to be said. I'm not a tribalist, but the more I see Miliband too, the more I like him. I drifted away from Labour in the later Blair years, but Miliband's stance on Syria impressed when he took on everybody last year and saved us all from another war. I like the fact he doesn't court the right-wing press. I like the fact the bad guys hate him. Doesn't that tell you something? Don't you wonder if all this time and money and effort spent lambasting him, is it maybe they're just a little bit scared of what he's going to do for the people who need it most? I'm voting Labour in my new constituency for the first time since 2005 because I feel it's the moral choice on this particular occasion. I'm proud to be here tonight because I want to lend whatever effort I can to anyone who's maybe swaying in Coatbridge and Christ. I can't think of another MP I'd leave my own constituency to come and support. We're paying a babysitter a tenner an hour for me just to be here tonight. And I hope that tells you something. This really is important and nobody deserves your vote any more than this guy here.